Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are Group Donut from Section 8. Today we are going to present about a statistical research on the impact of sleep and happiness emotion. So our team members are Shaza binti Shamsul, Nurul Adlina binti Roslan, Nurhanim Inshirah binti Mama Hanif, Aman Syafiq Lon, and Muhammad Tanvir Ahmad Shopno. Before we further discuss our project, I am going to explain the introduction of our research. So, our target audience for this project is public citizens. To collect data, we conducted an online survey using Google Form, and 66 respondents were obtained as a convenient sample. In the survey, we first asked respondents about their gender. Second, we asked about their average daily sleeping hours, whether it is less than 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, or more. Third, we asked respondents to choose their level of happiness. We provided a happiness scale which was classified into number 1 until number 5, where 1 indicate the lowest happiness level while 5 indicate the highest happiness level. The next question we asked was if they noticed any change in their level of happiness when they got a different amount of sleep. On top of that, we also include the question of how they feel when they get less sleep. The last question we were concerned about was did they agree if getting enough sleep will affect their happiness during the day. Thus, we use a histogram for each question consisting of the gender of the citizens, hours they sleep daily on average, and the level of happiness in order to draw a conclusion for our research. We are expecting that people who get more sleep will feel so much happier than people who get less sleep because sleep is known to promote emotional stability, enhance regulation that contribute to positive emotions and reduce negative emotions. Now, moving on to the problem statement. Our problem statement is we want to investigate whether sleep duration really influence individuals' happiness emotions, and we want to determine whether people with higher sleep quality report higher levels of happiness compared to those with poorer sleep quality, considering there are so many other factors that can affect one's happiness level.
To talk about our hypothesis is that we expect students who, on average, have more rest or sleep, depending on what, mainly sleep, are usually happier than those who have less rest or sleep. This is due to the fact that people who sleep more are usually more happier on average. Now I'll be talking about our method. The data we collected was based on all of the students in IAUM, regardless of their kulliyas. The data collection was done on an online survey, which was sent to other people. We used Google Form as a medium to collect our data. There were 66 respondents in total, and each respondent were required to answer questions regardless of their sleep and happiness. In order to view the insight of the variability of the data, we use variance and standard deviation. To further analyze the data, we made use of Chebyshev's theorem.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Tanvir Ahmed Shopno. I'm going to present our result of the each questions. So our first question was how many hours do you sleep on daily average? And we have some options there. Less than 3 hours, 4 hours, 5, 6, 7, 8, and more than 9 hours. The students, uh, most of the students choose 6 hours, which is 36.4%, and then 5 hours, which is 24.2%. And our next question was, have you noticed any change in your level of happiness when you get different amount of sleep? And the most people choose yes, they feel much better. And it was 69.7%. On the third question, we asked how happy every day are you on average, and the average is 42.4%. On the fourth question, we have how do you feel when you get less amount of sleep, and this the maximum people say they feel really tired, and the percentage is 77.3%. On the fifth question, we have um, do you agree if getting enough sleep will affect your happiness on daily during the day? And this and the 54.5% people say yeah, it's gonna affect their happiness on during the day. Now moving on to the analyze my part is hours of sleep. So here the blue one representing the male and the red one is representing the female. Now, central tendency comparison on male part. According to our graph and data, we have mean 5.886 and model classes 6, mode 4, standard deviation 1.23, square to the right, and Chebyshev's theorem. At least 75% of data values fall into 3.426 and 8.346, and 88.89% of the data values fall into between 2.196 and 9.456, and 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.966 and 10.806. Hence the mean falls within 4 standard deviation. Another central tendency comparison on female part, we have mean 6.1, model class is 6, mode 4, standard deviation 1.24, skew to the right, and the graph is skew to the right. Chebyshev's theorem, at least 75% of data values will fall between 3.42 and 8.38, and 88.89% of data values will fall between 2.18 and 9.62, and at least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.94 and 10.86. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviation.
So next, I will explain about analysis on category for daily happiness level on average. So this is the graph for daily happiness level on average. So you can see the blue one is for female and the red one is for male. Okay, so net central tendency comparison for female, the mean is 3.548, model class and mode is 4, variance is 0.8559, the standard deviation is 0.93, thus the graph will skew to the left. Chebyshev theorem state that 75% of the data values will fall between 1.69 and 5.41. At least 88.89% of data value will fall between 0.76 and 6.34. Lastly, at least 93.75% of the data value will fall between negative 0.17 and 7.27. Hence, the mean falls within 3 standard deviation. Next, central tendency comparison for male. The mean is 3.629, the model class and mode is 4, variance is 0.8286, and lastly, the standard deviation is 0.91. Thus, the graph is skewed to the left. Chebyshev theorem states that at least 3, 4, or 75% of the data values will fall between 1.81 and 5.45. At least 88.89% of the data values will fall between 0.89 and 6.36. And lastly, at least 93.75% of the data values will fall between negative 0.01 and 7.27. Hence, the mean falls within 3 standard deviation.
This histogram shows the data on the influence of sufficient sleep affecting daily happiness level on average. As you can see, it has been grouped to see respondents having their sleep hours on average daily and their level of happiness. In the survey, we asked the respondents on the scale of their happiness, and then we converted the scale into level of happiness to see the results clearly. Here, we can see the comparison of mean, model classes, mode, standard deviation, and its graph shape. The lowest mean is 5.89 in daily happiness level 2. The highest mean is 6.4 in daily happiness level 5. The model classes and mode are mostly the same except for daily happiness level 3. Same goes to the graph shape, which daily happiness level 3 has a right skewed graph while the others have U-shaped graph. For standard deviation, the highest is daily happiness level 2, which is 1.453, and the lowest is daily happiness level 4, which is 0.981. For daily happiness level 2, it's Chebyshev theorem. We found that at least 75% of data values will fall between 2.984 and 8.796. At least 89.89% of data values will fall between 1.531 and 249. Lastly, at least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.082 and 11.702. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviations. For daily happiness level 3, it's Chebyshev theorem. At least 75% of data values will fall between 2.99 and 8.79. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 1.54 and 10.24. At least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.09 and 11.69. Hence, the mean falls within four standard deviations. For daily happiness level 4, for Chebyshev theorem, at least 75% of data values will fall between 4.04 and 7.96. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 3.06 and 8.94, and at least 93.75% of data values will fall between 2.07 and 9.93. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviations. For daily happiness level 5, is Chebyshev theorem. We found that at least 75% of data values will fall between 3.54 and 9.26. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 2.11 and 10.69. And lastly, at least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.68 and 12.12. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviations. Next, this histogram shows the analysis of the perceived agreement on the influence of sufficient sleep by the respondents. We asked the respondents on which scale of 1 to 5 that they agreed on our hypothesis, which is the more sleeping hours you consume, the more happy you are daily. We grouped them into their happiness levels for further analysis. Here, we can see the comparison of mean, model classes, mode, standard deviation, and its graph shape. The lowest mean is 4.07 in daily happiness level 4. The highest mean is 4.4 in daily happiness level 5. The model classes and mode are mostly the same except for daily happiness level 2. All daily happiness levels have the same graph shape, which is skewed to the left. The highest standard deviation is daily happiness level 3, and the lowest is daily happiness level 2. Next, for daily happiness level 2, is Chebyshev theorem. At least 75% of data values will fall between 2.28 and 6.17. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 1.31 and 7.14. At least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.33, 0.33 and 8.11. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviations. For daily happiness level 3, we found that at least 75% of data values will fall between 1.45 and 6.76. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 0.12 and 8.09. And at least 93.75% of data values will fall between negative 1.21 and 9.42. We can see that these data values cannot be defined in at least 93.75% as there is a negative value, hence the mean falls within 3 standard deviations. For daily happiness level 4, it's Chebyshev theorem. At least 75% of data values will fall between 1.77 and 6.38. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 0.62 and 7.52, and at least 93.75% of data values will fall between negative 0.54 and 8.68. However, we can see that these data values cannot be defined at least 93.75% as there is a negative value. Hence, the mean falls within 3 standard deviations. Lastly, for daily happiness level 5, it's Chebyshev theorem. We found that at least 75% of data values will fall between 2.25 and 6.25. At least 88.89% of data values will fall between 1.18 and 7.63. At least 93.75% of data values will fall between 0.1 and 8.7. Hence, the mean falls within 4 standard deviations.
Now I'll be talking about our limitations and weaknesses. The first point being is that we had an extremely limited number of participants. There was only a total of 66 participants in our survey. We may have overlooked a few factors, such as emotional factors in this, as some people have some issues with that when it comes to sleeping. And also, they ha- we had a high chance of including a bad sample in our project. Now, on to the conclusion. To what we can conclude, on average, people who sleep more tend to be happier. Insufficient amount of sleep can lead to negative emotions or, in general, just being less happy. To generalize what I'm trying to say. Both male and females exhibit a similar average sleep duration and happiness level as according to our survey.
And on the recommendation, we recommend the students should balance their work and lifestyle. It basically they should maintain their life and work. That's it, and they should focus on the mental health because the mental health is the main thing. That's why we are suggesting to maintain their mental health and maintain their I mean the balance, just to make balance in their daily work and their lifestyle.